The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network. Any questions or concerns about what is said should be directed to the show host, whose information will be provided upon request.
We are a chosen generation.
But whosoever drinketh the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Welcome to the Living Springs Women's Empowerment Show.
We've been called for to show His excellence.
Good night, based on where of the globe you are watching us from. Welcome to the Living Springs Women Empowerment TV show. This is a Christian show where women come together to empower one another. And I'm the host and founder of Living Springs Women Empowerment TV show. My name is Dr. Flora Gooding Davis, and I'm an ordained pastor. Welcome. Our anchor scripture for this women's ministry is John 4:14, and it's a discussion about Jesus and the woman on the well. And you can go and read the rest of it. Welcome again. Today, I am privileged to have a special guest here with me, and once she tells you bio history, I'm actually doing her a disservice because it's lengthy, she's well experienced, and it's only she will have to add the pieces to it. It's just like a puzzle. So, welcome. I have with me today Miss Patricia Fletcher. Miss Fletcher is a 47 years resident of PG County. She's a mother, a grandmother, and from our discussion, she is an aunt. She's always talking about her niece. So, she worked for she has a 26 years experience as a District of Columbia mental health counselor and forensic psychiatric technician. She worked 5 years as the chief negotiator for arbitration, mediation, and grievance with American Federation of States. She is a community activist, a member of the Black Panther in DC, and she worked on a lot of political campaigns. She is a former elect board member representing District 6 in 2006 to 2010. And there is a lot more that she will have to fill in the gap. Like I said, it's very lengthy. She's well-versed. She's experienced in so many ways. Welcome, Ms. Fletcher.
It's nice to be here.
Yeah, welcome. So, our topic for today is a trending topic because as African American, and in February is the month of Celebrate Black History Month. So we have to talk about Black history. And we have a lot of things to say. And who is better for somebody who can tell you about it? You know what he said, I can show you more than I can tell you because she has experienced it. So our topic for today is navigating Black history as an African American woman. Navigating Black history as an African American woman. So, my question for you, Ms. Fletcher, why is it important for us as African Americans to celebrate Black History Month?
I think it's extremely important to celebrate it because unfortunately our history is not given the way it should be in our school system. And I would love for people my age, I'm 73, to just go around and tell their experiences of being Black, because there's a lot of information in the history books that is left out. And when I was growing up, my parents would give us a little bit about history and their experience so that it could just go on from generation to generation. But that is not happening now. And as you read the news, how they're, trying to destroy the knowledge in the books, it is predominantly our history, and they're trying to rewrite it. And it's important for our young people to know their history, from where they came from. It gives them some strength to know where they are, and it helps them to go forward, to understand where they came from. So it's extremely important, Black history.
And can you imagine that they're trying to take it out of schools and they're trying to rewrite our history, like you said?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that, makes you wonder, we are a powerful group of people of color, particularly Blacks. And there is an obvious threat in terms of the knowledge that we obtain. And I can remember when I was younger, and you would hear your parents and everybody say, you need to get an education so that you will have this knowledge. And yes, we had to be better than everybody else. But my father would tell me all the time, and my father only went to the 8th grade, but he would say, they can beat you, they can kill you, but they can never take away the knowledge that you have in your head. So it's extremely important to have that knowledge and to understand your history, because we have an amazing history.
Yeah, we have an amazing history, and it's also good that we know and we pass it down to our children so they know where they come from, who they are, and who's they are, they know their identity. Because if they don't have the knowledge and their history, and it's not handed down, their history will be told to them the way the people want to tell it, and that's what's going on now in our community.
Let me give you a little short story. My mother, and later we found out, was adopted, and she was Hungarian. And her father was German. My father is Black, very Black. So I'm number 13 of 14 children.
Oh, wow.
So the hue in my family range from very, very fair skin to very, very Black. So the next generation, our kids, that hue is there. My baby daughter was the color of my mother, very, very fair skin. It was during the time of school busing that she started school. And she was going to John Carroll, and she used to come home. By then, I had been in the Black Panther Party, well aware of my roots and teaching them about their roots. Patrice would come home and say to us that she was not Black, that she was vanilla. And,
that's a good one.
and she would take a towel and put it on her head, and say that, that was her hair. Now, mind you, I told you she was part of the school busing. So the kids in the neighborhood were all Black that went to her school. Kids from Greenbelt were bused into John Carroll, and they were all white. So she had that interaction there with them. Fast forward through elementary school, she was always vanilla. She was not Black. But there was constantly conversations in our house about racism, being Black. My husband would talk about his job and the prejudice and stuff that he would have on his job. So the conversation was there, and she heard it. However, she did not realize that she was really Black until she went to Benjamin Tasker Middle School. And they were when she went to Bowie High School. she called me, and I used to tell them, because we lived in Landover, they were bused all the way to Bowie. And when her first time going to Bowie, there was a sign on Route 50 that said, "And we don't want you here." That's how crazy it was.
Wow.
But having said that, we got through it. But we would tell her, "You do not call me or your daddy unless you're dying, because if the school call us, it's on you." Because he worked in Crystal City, and I worked in D.C., and we would have to come all the way to Bowie, so that was a long ride. She called us from the counselor's office and said, well, she called me. She said, "Mommy," she said, "I know you're going to be mad at me." She said, "But I think I'm going to jail." I said, "Huh?" "Yes, I think I'm going to jail, and there's a bunch of us going to jail. So you need to hurry up and get here before they take us." I called the daddy, we go out there. What had happened was, there were a group, they do hall sweeping in the schools. You know, everybody has to clear out. And the principal was doing hall sweep. So Patrice said they were, her and a group of her girlfriends were going to class, and she noticed at the end of the hall, the principal, this group of white boys, he told them, "Hurry up and get in class, you're not supposed to be out here." He came past them, told them to get in, and saw a group of black boys. He got on his speaker and said, "Call the sheriff, we have a riot."
What?
That's what he did. And at that point, all the black students walked out of the school. And that evening she told me, she said, "Ma," she said, "I understand what you're saying." But as a result of that, and this is how important it is for young people, you know, to become involved and to understand what's going on. Because of their actions, they decided to have sensitivity meetings with parents, teachers, and it was very painful. But you had teachers in that school who admitted that this was their first experience. These were white teachers, and they were honest enough to say, "This was my first experience with dealing with someone black."
An African American.
And all I knew was what I saw on TV. So their actions basically showed what they were thinking. But it was a fruitful meeting, and things changed.
And that's what I was going to say. At times, some things have to happen in order for change to come.
Absolutely.
And people have to make a lot of sacrifice and be determined, and for things to happen to bring another positive change. So, that was an experience. Wow.
It was.
Wow. I know as a parent, you say, "Or else I'm going to jail." You're like, "What?"
Right. I was saying, what is going on? But after, you know, the more I had thought about it, and, you know, a couple of years afterwards, I realized that she basically was hearing what I said, but just couldn't connect it to her. And at that moment, I was very proud of my baby.
Good job.
Yes,
good job.
yes.
Now, you touched a little bit about the busing and transportation experience. That's about your daughter. So tell me your experience that you had during the transportation and busing experience to school or to work or where it is. We all know part of it. You tell, what is it that you know you've experienced?
With me personally, I grew up in a black neighborhood in public housing. And so it was all black. We walked to school. I walked to school from elementary. I walked to school to junior high. And for some reason, I did not want to go to the school that was I was assigned to, I decided I wanted to go to Catholic school. And that's where the fun began. Because you could count the number of black students
Like rice on rice.
Exactly. It was like 10 of us. And we had, it was ran by a group of nuns, Holy Cross Order, that was all white. All white. And you could see, I could begin to see the racism and stuff. And in 68, I'll never forget it because that's when the rebellion happened. People call it the riots. That was the rebellion. But in 68, I was a junior in high school. And I had a job after school. And my school was on 6th and East Capitol Street, and I would catch the bus to go to North Capitol and 8th Street to work for the health department every day. When it rained, I would go. When it snowed, I would go, but I'd be standing at that bus stop. And it was one of my classmates who drove, who was white, and every day, she would pass me at the bus stop. And she would go pick up her brother at Gonzaga High School. Gonzaga was like a block from where I worked. The day of the rebellion, she stopped. Pat, you need a ride?
Because you want shelter, right?
I said, sure. She dropped me off, but before she dropped me off, she lived in Virginia. And before she dropped me off, she said, I need to know the quickest way to get to the 14th Street Bridge because I don't want to be caught in that. And for your listening audience who knows about North Capitol, it's North Capitol here, and it's 8th Street here, and up here is Gonzaga High School. Well, I told her, when you go pick up your brother, you come back to the light. At the light was where I worked at in 8th Street. I said, as opposed to keeping straight like you're going to Union Station, you make a left and just keep straight. Do you know where I sent her?
I don't want to say.
It was
right
the
into the
heart.
The heart.
The heart.
Let me just say the heart of the stomach. I want to say the heart of the right heart.
She did not return back to school. I don't know what happened to her, but she didn't return back to school. But that's called passive-aggressive behavior. But that was my way of saying, I know what you're doing and why you're doing it. You're going to use me, I got something.
As a scapegoat.
I got something for you. But it was when I was little, I told you the color of my mother, and we were walking on Benning Road. And at that time, Benning Road near Minnesota Avenue, it was all white that lived in those houses down there. And I'll never forget, this little old white lady was sitting on the porch. And my mother had my hand. We were walking to the bus stop. And she asked my mother, what you doing with that little end baby? Walking with that little end baby. And I remember asking my mother, I said, Mom, what's wrong with that lady? She said, don't worry, baby. She said she doesn't know any better. After I got older, I realized, what was going on. But it was amazing. My dad at work knew his job very well. And they would bring young white guys in for him to train. And he would come home fussing, but he knew that he couldn't say anything because he had all these babies to feed. So,
because when you know your responsibility, it's just something you just bite hard and keep on moving.
Exactly. But the good thing in my family was that my mom was very active in the community. Made sure that all of us were registered to vote, and I think that's where I pick it up from. And she said, you stay involved. You stay involved because your voice makes a difference. And got married, moved over into Prince George's County, and I said, oh my God. My sisters and brothers used to tell me when I was younger, and they, you know, how they go out and that type of thing. Don't go into Prince George's County.
Okay, hold that thought, because we're going to be getting to the housing inequality and racial inequalities. So we'll be right back. It seems like we're going to be taking a break, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Did I do okay? Oh, okay.
In 2018, I experienced some water damage in my home. I submitted my request for payment to my homeowner's insurance company several times, and it was denied for various reasons. I paid the repair cost out of pocket as I grew frustrated with the insurance company. This fall, I attended Living Springs Women's Conference in the mountains of Pennsylvania, where we fasted and prayed for 3 days. One of my top requests was financial restoration. I wrote and laid my petition on the altar for those 3 days. The very day we returned from the mountain, I opened my mail. To my surprise was a check from the insurance company for the claim I made in 2018. To God be all the glory, as scripture tells us in Joel 20:25, and I will restore to you the years the locust hath eaten.
Welcome again. Welcome to the Living Springs Women Empowerment Podcast. It's a Christian show, and today we have nobody but Mrs. Patricia Fletcher. If you're just joining us, we are talking today about navigating Black history as an African American woman. She has lived it, she experienced it, and there is nothing better than I can show you more than I can tell you. So welcome again, Ms. Fletcher. So during the break, we just had the opportunity for you guys to watch the testimonials. You never know, your number might be next, and also the information about the prayer line. And it's always you can join for counseling, for prayer, and for us to stand in the gap with you based on what it is that you are concerned about. Welcome again. So Ms. Fletcher, before the break, you started to talk about your housing. So now let me ask you this question. What is it what have you experienced? You said when you moved to PG County, it's like all hell break loose. It's that experience. So what is it about the housing and racial inequality that you experienced when you moved to PG County?
When I moved to Prince George's County, it was really a little difficult. The neighborhood that I moved in was all black. That Landover, Sea Pleasant area was all black. But it was like we were all clustered in one area. You couldn't live in Bowie. Bowie was all white.
Wow.
You had Kettering, which was where your affluent blacks lived. And it was extremely difficult, and that was basically, and it was sustained for a while, and that was basically because of your legislators. Your county council was all white. You had your estate's attorney, Bud Marshall, who gave a license to the police to do whatever they wanted to do. You had judges, you had elected officials that were all predominantly white, that made laws that impacted how the criminal justice system worked, how the housing system worked, how the health system worked, all of that. It controlled your total existence. And then comes Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson came onto the scene, and there was a gentleman by the name of Benny Thayer who used to run the 7-Eleven up on Sheriff Road. And he said, I'm going to, see if I can run his campaign. And he did. He ended up, they had a little store down on Barlow Road called In a Minute. And he ran that campaign, the state campaign for Jesse Jackson, out of that little store. His partner, Mr. Brown, was the treasurer, and I assisted the treasurer statewide. But I know your viewers can't see this room, but the space that we had was about as big as this for Jesse Jackson. But you had teachers coming in. The teachers, Joanne Benson, who's now a senator, Carolyn Howard. You had Wayne Carey, who was our county executive at that time. You had Alex Williams, who ended up becoming the state's attorney and a judge. You had Nathaniel Exum. All of those people ran as delegates for Jesse Jackson. And the county executive at that time, I believe it was Paris Glendenning, and he saw the writing on the wall that he was not going to get back in. But you had that, and the doors began to open. It wasn't perfect. It was not perfect, but they began to open. They tried to put, and it wasn't the elected officials, but it was this group of people, white folks, who wanted to set some limits, and they saw that we were going to have a black county executive, so they put Trim in place to sort of tie his hands. But it worked out anyway, and like I said, we had to do things better, even though we were equally qualified or more qualified than some of those people who were originally in there. But it was just amazing to see that transition. And then you started having white flight, and the white folks started moving, okay? And I can remember, and that's where we get our large percentage of black folks here in the county. But I call the county a melting pot, because when I got on the school board, do you know that the Prince George's County public school system, it may be more now, but I was on the school board from 2006 to 2010. There were 118 different languages within the school system, which says something about the county. And you hear them talk about the melting pot. We're now a salad bowl. That's what we are. But getting back to the transition, like you said, I used to be with the union and the chief staff rep. And I remember going to the Reed Center in the District of Columbia when Alex Williams was elected mayor. And I'm leaning over, and he's down there, and this young white fellow stands up and says, "Mr. Mayor, my friends used to live here in the District of Columbia, and they want to come back. What are you going to do?" And you know what he said? "Don't worry, they'll be back." So you see how the District of Columbia has transitioned. And what I am proud to say about our elected officials here in Prince George's County, they looked at the district and said,
This can't happen.
It's not going to happen here. And so they have put things in place so that we don't have to leave. Are we totally happy? No. And it's a good thing because it gives you the incentive to strive for better. But racism, live and well, it still exists.
It still exists.
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. That's giving a nutshell of what the experience. I remember. I just wondered those days what was going on. So, so now the political diversity. Touching to that, do you have anything more you want to add into that?
I have seen and being working with ASME, I've had to go down to Annapolis. I've had to talk to elected officials. And I think initially, like I said, you had the Joanne Bensons, the Carolyn Howards, the Nathaniel Exums. All of those were Jackson delegates, and that they had to get their feet wet. But you had a senator, a senator down there who pretty much tried to control everything. He was white. His name was Mike Miller. He's deceased now. But he was controlling everything. I can remember Tommy Broadwater, who was, oh my God, he was awesome. Tommy Broadwater, for those of your listening viewers who don't know, he was the senator for the 24th Legislative District. The 24th Legislative District, if you wanted to win anything statewide, you had to come to the 24th. Because he educated his people and made sure that they voted, and he took care of them. And when he got into that, before he got into that little bit of trouble, Tommy Broadwater was instrumental in getting Steny Hoyer where he is today. Steny Hoyer ran against, in a special election, against Gladys Spellman's husband because she was sick. And Tommy Broadwater gathered a group of people, and I was included, and I'm glad I was a part of that, to help in this special election. And he won. Steny Hoyer won. And I think it was something like 4 or 5 months later, he had to run again, and he won again. So Tommy Broadwater was the mentor for the black elected officials that came down there. He
was very influential.
He was. So when he got in trouble, I'm going to show you how threatening this district was. The Central Committee, because he was locked up, he could no longer be the senator. And it was the job of the Prince George's County Central Committee not only to make sure that Democrats are elected, but they had to appoint when a seat is vacant before term is up. We were down at Glen Arden Town Hall from 6 o'clock in the evening. Gloria Laura at that time was the chair. She did moved on and became senator. We sat down there from, it was about 6 o'clock in the evening to about 3 o'clock in the morning for them to decide, because the community wanted, it was a former teacher, they wanted Bonnie Johns to take that seat, because Tommy Broadwater knew that if anybody that Mike Miller wanted in that seat, they would chop up his district. And he said that he had people, seniors that were living in some of these homes, the taxes would go up. He was really, really a very caring person about the people he represented.
And I wish it should be like that today.
Exactly. Long story short, they put Decatur Trotter in there, nice guy, but 3 months later they chopped the district up. And it just went from there. But a couple of years after that, and I have to send it to you. I complained about them gerrymandering, you know, fixing it so that they could get elected. And at that time, the Democratic Party, even though we had a lot of black officials, elected officials in Annapolis, they didn't have the backbone to do what I did. So I had to go to the Republican Party, and they filed suit regarding the gerrymandering. It went all the way up to the Supreme Court. It really did. And
So it's been a long time you've been meddling in.
Stirring the pot, stirring the pot. But fast forward now, because I work in Annapolis now with Delegate Tiffany Austin, and I sit back and I look. We had so many, I mean, just across the state, so many bright, young senators and delegates down there, and their focus is really on the people that they represent. It is really there, and they step on toes, and it's not a matter of, no, I can't do this because I want to get elected. They're about their business at hand.
Or the people's business.
And that's what we want our black folks to do. And that's part of our history. That is part of our history. And a lot of them understand that because they know their past history.
Yep.
And like I said
roots.
before, they know their roots, they know where they are, and they know where they got to go. And they lock legislation in there that will take a giant to unravel. So we're getting there.
And then the thing I noticed with, I won't call names, with some of them, they work collaboratively to assist to build a strong group together to make all this legislation. So that's one good thing. Instead of, at times when they say is I don't want to say what I want to say, but at times when somebody is going forward, you have been like a roach. Somebody
my mama used to say like crabs in a barrel. When you take the crabs out,
they want to try to pull back.
No, it is amazing. It is amazing to watch them at work.
Yeah, and to say, because this is Black History Month, and so I'm going to say this, what I want to say. I have a list of delegates and council members that will come on the show, and we're aligning them. But these sets of people are people that are really about their people's business, about the people who they represent, and making sure and ensuring that whatever the reason they were put in those positions and those offices, they actually completing them, no matter what. Some has been called names, some has been demoted, or their leadership taken from them, but they still vow to have the work done, because that is the reason why. And so they'll be coming and telling you guys that WBGR listeners and Roku listeners and YouTubers and all that, the work that they're doing, especially in PG County and the state of Maryland, so that when time comes, you have to listen, look at their track record and see, okay, this is not just talking, he's not just talking because it's close to election, but look at the track record. So they'll be laying the foundation.
You're right. And you were talking about housing. You look and see how they have built a buoy. You look and see how they have built a green belt and over there on Route 1. Okay, here where we are, the Landover, Sea Pleasant area, the hope was there because of the green line. The blue line, and they were going to do some stuff. Well, that has changed tunes, and you have some county council members who are livid about that. But you even go back further, you have FedEx Field. Let me tell you about FedEx Field. Nobody wanted it, okay? They wanted to put it in Laurel. They didn't want it in Laurel. They didn't want it in Greenbelt, so they put it over here. Okay, fine. Wayne Curry was instrumental in saying, okay, if you're going to build that, then you need to build something for the community. And they built the Sports and Learning Complex, which is fantastic. However, what they did was, during game time, let me back up. In D.C., they had the stadium over in D.C. Okay, and you used to see people out on the corner selling water and all that kind of stuff.
I remember coming from
right, selling little parking spots. Making a little hustle on the side. Well, for the game, the first game, there were kids, neighborhood kids, on the corners, with their water and stuff. Do you know what they did?
What?
Number one, they put signs. This is when Sam's was up there. They put signs down Sheriff Road saying no pedestrians. You couldn't walk the sidewalk. The sign coming from 202 down to Sheriff Road, it was signs, no pedestrians.
Wow.
I'm saying something's wrong with this picture. Here again, me. Filed a complaint, and a couple of other people filed a complaint, and we went to a hearing. And the people that was representing the Redskins said, well, it's too dangerous for people to walk because they bust the
players.
They bust the patrons. They would pick them up to the metro stations and put them on metro buses and zoom past and let them off at the stadium. I said, you bust them in and you bust them out. And we don't want a lot of people walking, they said, because it's too dangerous. I said, excuse me. I said, I work for the union, and I'm over in Baltimore, over on Bush Street. I said, and when people go to the games over there, I said, they walk, and the speed limit is 40 over there. I said, it's only 30 here. Oh, well, it's just too dangerous. I said, oh, remember I told you I work with the union. I represent the crossing guards. How about if those crossing guards are good enough to protect our kids to cross the street and direct the traffic, they're good enough to direct the traffic for the patrons that are coming from Virginia, because half of us in my neighborhood can't afford to go here, can have people cross the street. Well, needless to say, they took up the signs. They took the signs up.
So you have done a lot of work, for the community, and we just want to thank you for that. So now, anything you have to say about voting in PG County? She has a lot to say about PG County. Remember, I introduced her. She's lived here for 47 years. Even if you had a child, that's 47 years old. It's like work.
Right.
So let alone she was already an adult living for 47 years and continues to live in PG County.
Let me tell you, and you hear people, and like I said, my mother was very active in politics. And the first time, my father never voted. But the first time I ever saw my father vote was for Jesse Jackson. And he didn't live to see Obama, but that was the first time he voted. So I fast forward, you hear people say, oh, my vote don't count, I'm not going to vote. Your vote doesn't count because you're not voting. And you're voting for the person that doesn't need to be in that office by not voting. You're giving them a vote. Your vote and your voice is heard, and it does count. And now it's more than ever because, and I'm going to say it, Donald Trump has basically told you he has did everything except smack black folks in the face to let us know how he feels, not just black folks, but people of color, how he feels about us. And he says what he means. He says it. And it just goes beyond the people in Prince George's County or in the state of Maryland or in the United States. It has gone beyond to people, other countries, who are extremely fearful that this man will get in office. Because you look at who he admires. It's Putin. And it's a fear. It's a genuine, I go back to my psychology and psychiatry days. It's a genuine fear by white men that we are a threat to them. For what I don't understand and I don't know, but that's what it is. And they want to maintain this control, number one. Number two is they are afraid of the white race no longer existing. Like I said earlier, we used to say it's a mixing bowl, now it's a salad bowl, because they are interracial marriages and their offsprings are marrying interracially. They see what their parents are doing and saying, you know what, this is wrong.
And we don't want to be part of it.
And this goes back to because their offsprings have been reading the history books the way they are, and they have experienced it in the classroom with their classmates, and they're saying, oh no. No. We're going to change these books.
And that's what's going to be.
We're going to change. We're going to change these books because our kids are thinking the wrong way, and we're going to become extinct. Plus, we're going to make your mama have babies. That's what you're going to do. You're going to have these babies because it's not people of color that are doing these abortions, and that. If you look at the stats, the majority of them are white women who can afford it. We can't afford it. It's too expensive. And they are so afraid of their race becoming extinct that they're doing these things. And if you look at the news and know your history, black women across the country, when Donald Trump ran, were telling white women, you got to vote against this man. You got to do it. You got to do it. Now that he was in and they did that, and they're wondering why black women aren't joining them in their plight. Well, boo-boo, we told you. We told you this is your mess, and you want us to come in and save you. You got to step to the plate. And then maybe we'll come in, because our race as a people, no matter who, I used to say, no matter Democrat or Republican, they don't do anything for us, but I'm going to still vote. But we're survivors. We can survive. We can survive. So they can't. They can't. A lady, when I was with the Jackson campaign after it was over with, a lady from the National Organization of Women called me and said, oh, Miss Fletcher, I've seen what you was doing around the state, and you could come and join us. I said, oh, really? She said, yes, you would be extremely helpful. I said, do you work? She said, no, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I take care of my kids. I said, well, guess what? I said, I will join when my husband makes enough money where I can stay home and take care of my kids and do what you do. Can you do that? She introduced me to Mr. Clickup. I haven't heard from her since. And that was
hanging up the phone.
Right. That was over 20 some odd years ago. But sometimes you just have to take a stand because with black women, our history, doing slavery and stuff, the black female was the one who sort of held the family together, and it wasn't that we were being domineering. If you read your history, it was for survival of that black male. They wanted, because they knew what would happen to them. And now you fast forward, some of that is still lingering, but we need as black women to be more supportive of our black men, because we have multi-talented black men, multi-talented, but we need to lend them the support.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
that makes a lot of sense. So we've almost come to the end. Do you have anything you want to say, or what thought you want to leave the viewers with?
The only thought that I want to leave the viewers with, no matter whether you're Democrat or Republican, you need to, if you're not registered to vote, you need to register to vote, and you need to vote because your vote counts. And it's important, more so than ever, that you get out to vote.
If you don't vote, you're part of the problem.
Yes.
Don't complain, they're doing this, they're doing that, because guess what? You didn't vote. So it's enough said. So I just want to thank you for coming, and I want to thank the WBLG TV listeners, and also the Roku. This show will be premiered on Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, and you could go on the YouTube page at LS Women's Empowerment, and then on Facebook, Living Springs Women Empowerment. So you could go there at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. It will be premiere. And please do not forget to subscribe, share, and like the page. Thank you so very much for watching. So now with that said, this our show is just people that are come to the guests are just volunteers. They do not get paid for anything, and not even for the even gas, because this show is not sponsored, or this show is just sponsored by me and my husband. To God be all the glory. So we just have a small token for them as a sign of appreciation. He said it's a cultural thing. You said don't go to your friend or visit empty-handed. So you have to. So with that, we have a small token for you, and it's just a love seed, as a sign of appreciation. And for you to at least you always think about I was on the Women Empowerment TV show or podcast show, and we talk about Black History Month. And the reason why I brought up for Black History Month, you can tell she has lived it, she's experienced, especially in Prince Georgian. She knows the issue. She can write a book of Prince George's County. So, and this is the county where we live, so, and in the state of Maryland. So for those who don't know, so bring somebody who has lived it, who know the area with her eyes closed. She was articulating and telling you the landmarks of places and demonstrating where they are. So with that said, I just want to thank you for coming. And if you don't mind, can you please do us the honor to pray for our viewers, or pray at the end of the show?
If you could please include in there a prayer for our elected officials in Annapolis. They had an emergency this evening.
You will go ahead and pray.
Where
you will tell the viewers.
Father God, I ask you to bless those that are in Annapolis that are now sheltering in place. I ask you to bless this lovely lady that is sitting beside me and her husband for taking the initiative and the insight to give our people in the community a voice, and may she continue to do so. In Father's name, amen.
Amen, amen, and amen. Thank you so very much. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you back next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Goodbye.
A chosen generation.
But whosoever drinketh the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. Welcome to the Living Springs Women's Empowerment Show.
We've been called for to show his